That smells so good. You want to learn how to freeze dry chicken tortilla soup? You're going to want to watch this video. Hello everyone, my name is Sarah and welcome to Tiny Shed Life. Today I have a quick and easy chicken tortilla soup recipe that we're going to freeze dry so we can take with us on our next camping trip. I'm going to be sharing lots of tips and tricks on how to best prepare this soup for freeze drying. The awesome thing is you can eat it for dinner too. So I'm actually doubling my recipe so I have enough to fill my trays and enough to feed my family tonight. I'll share with you everything I do, from getting the chicken ready, some shortcuts, some different options, and different ways to flavor it that suits your family better. So let's get started. Not only will I be sharing awesome tips and tricks with you in today's video, but this video is part of Freeze Dried February. If you guys noticed that little thumbnail picture at the beginning, I am participating in a huge, massive, exciting giveaway. You are going to want to participate in this. We have partnered with, I think it's a total of 28 different channels, and we are going to give away a medium freeze dryer. They are going to ship it to you. Now, this is for US and Canadian residents only. If you're out of those two countries, we will have a gift card to send you, something a little different. But if you are a US or Canadian citizen, you are going to want in on this one. All right, just be sure to subscribe to me and all the channels participating. I will have this on a playlist link for you to go check out the other videos. And then I also have an exclusive link. It'll be available until February 28th for you to enter the giveaway. We'll be doing the live drawing on March 1st at 6 p.m. Central. So be sure to be there for that, and hopefully you get to win that freeze dryer. All right, so let's get started first. All right, so there are two ways to get your chicken ready. We raise our own chickens and harvest them, so I have them whole in the freezer. You can buy them whole at the store, whatever suits you. And I like to put them in the crock pot. I put 2 in there at a time, and I wash them really good. I pat them dry, and then we add salt, pepper, and coriander, and we set it on low for 10 hours. I typically do this at night because it cooks all night, and in the morning I can turn it off. And by the time it cools down enough, me or my husband will shred it up. Once I get it shredded up, I just put it in here until I'm ready to cook my recipe. Another option that you can do is you can buy a rotisserie chicken or two and shred that up. That's just a little shortcut. And we're gonna set that aside because first we need to get our vegetables cooked. I am going to only use onion and garlic in my recipe. At this point, if you like hot peppers, this is when you would want to add it. We're gonna cook it down a little bit. When doing a freeze-dried recipe, you don't want to overcook anything because then when you go to rehydrate it or reconstitute it, it's going to be too mushy. We're going to cook everything to about 80%, and then we're going to get it into our freeze-dried pans. All right, so even if you don't have a freeze dryer, guys, you could be the winner of that giveaway, or you could cook this meal for dinner. You would just cook things all the way through. Since I'm doubling my recipe, I will use 2 onions and 6 cloves of garlic. We actually harvest our own garlic this year, so at the end of the season, I probably need better knives, y'all. At the end of the season, we actually sat at the table and we peeled everything. Save these. I'm going to show you what you can do with them. So at the end of the season, we peeled a bunch of our own garlic, and I froze it on these trays in the freezer, and then I bagged it up so we can use it throughout the year. Okay, so I got both my onions chopped up. I will saute those. I'm going to use butter. You can use avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil. You can even use water if you want to. So you just want to make sure if you use water to keep that, wet so it doesn't burn. I don't even know how much I'm going to use, maybe like a tablespoon. Something I want to point out. So I told y'all to save the ends of those onions. What you can do is when that chicken is done shredding, put all the bones and skin or whatever you don't use back into your crock pot, and you're going to want to fill it up to the top with water or whatever, almost to the top. And then you can throw in those onion pieces. You can throw in celery, carrots, whatever you want to season your broth, or you could just add water. Like this one, I just added water. You can see it. And I put it in the fridge because we're going to use this as our broth for our recipe. And because we're freeze drying, we're going to just kind of gently skim the top of this fat layer off because fat doesn't really freeze dry well, and we want to remove that. This one I actually did carrot, celery, and onion inside the crock pot with the chicken. So it's a little bit darker. So everything's a little different, but it'll taste great. If you don't have time for that or you went with the rotisserie chicken, you can always just grab some boxed broth. Okay, we're gonna get this melted. I always like to cook my onions at first, kind of get them semi-translucent before adding the garlic. If you cook garlic too long, it's like this burnt taste. So I add it at the end for only like 30 seconds. If you're doing jalapenos or red bell pepper or some kind of other pepper, you can do them with your onions. My kids just really don't like the spice, so I'm keeping it out. All right, so the butter's melted and I've got it like on medium heat, and we're gonna add the onions. If you are not an onion person, I would put 1 teaspoon of like onion powder per onion in the recipe. And you can do the same for like the garlic. Just Google what they say to do. And I'm gonna just let it cook for a while and cook down. While that's cooking down, let's get other ingredients ready. We're gonna chop up our garlic. All right, so we're gonna chop this down. I got my little chopper, which we'll also use for the chicken. We're gonna chop up the chicken. We're gonna do it really small. That's why I got the chopper out. If you're eating it tonight, you can leave it bigger, and that's totally fine. One of the things that's really going to make a difference when you're freeze drying such a like blended recipe, like if you do all apples or all mushrooms or something in your freeze dryer, everything's the same. So it freeze dries pretty evenly and well, you wouldn't reconstitute some of those, but because we have a variety of things and sizes, we want our pieces of chicken to be really small so they reconstitute back evenly and they freeze dry evenly. So I will use my little chopper to get those really small. Let's get the seasonings put together. It's pretty simple. So my diced tomatoes I'm using are not salted. A lot of times I buy the low sodium broth because I just like to control how much salt I'm putting in. I do salt my chickens, so I probably will not add any salt to this recipe, but you can if you want. I'll taste it and see if it needs it. So other than salt, the only other 2 things you need is going to be cumin and chili powder. So I've doubled my recipe. I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of chili powder and 2 teaspoons of cumin. Last year, I guess it was 2 years ago, we harvested our own onions and I freeze dried those and used them for the following year. It's so good. The flavor is unmatched, and like you can powder it too, and it's so much better than some of the powder you can buy when you grow it yourself. All right, let's get our garlic added. So we'll just let this go for about 30 seconds before adding the rest of our ingredients. And then guys, it's bring it to a boil and let it sit and simmer. If you're going to eat it that night, let it simmer for about 25 minutes. If you want to freeze dry it like we're gonna do, I will probably only go about 15 or 20 minutes. I don't want to overcook it. I'm gonna go ahead and add some of my broth. I will use this one first. So it came from my oldest batch. We're gonna skim off the fat. We do not want that in our recipe. If you're eating it that night, it's not bad. You can eat it. We just don't want to freeze dry this. So look how it just peels off. Okay, again, it's not bad. We just don't want to freeze dry that. So let's get that off the top. Make sure you throw that chicken fat in the trash can and not down the drain. Okay, we'll get this added to our recipe. I will be adding, oop, I'm very messy. If you've been following me, I'm like cave status. Just make a mess everywhere I go. I can't help it. Okay, that's in there. We're gonna add our seasonings. You probably want about 1 pound or 2 of corn. Seems like a lot, but I will be adding more liquid. And then I can my own black beans too. You could do 2 cans of black bean in this, and you'll want to rinse these. So get that fat off, pour some more on here. If you have 2 like 20-ounce cans, you can do those. I'm gonna do 3 like 15-ounce cans. And these are no salt added. It's whatever you prefer. I just don't want things to get too salty right away. I pour the whole thing in, juices and all. Maybe I should have used a bigger pot. Let's crank this guy back up so it can start boiling. That's it. We are going to bring it to a boil. Then I'm gonna let it simmer for 15 or 20 minutes. I don't want to overcook it, like I said. I'm just gonna keep saying that so I don't forget and y'all don't forget. It looks so delicious. It smells really good. All right, time is up. It smells great. I'm going to get this off the heat a little bit, or a lot of it. So I've got my trays ready. Your Harvest Right freeze dryer will come with one set. We decided probably after using it for a couple of months that we really need it more, because one way to expedite your freezing process is to pre-freeze things before you put them into the freeze dryer. So I want to do that with this. If not, the freeze dryer is just going to run a really long time. I will put this in the freezer for 3 days before adding it to the freeze dryer. So first I'm going to fill all my trays up, and I'm going to let them cool down before putting them in the freezer because I really just don't want that huge temperature change. I have cleaned it out a little spot so I have something level. All right, so I'm going to get all 4 of these put inside the freezer, and I'm going to wait 3 days. So Monday morning we'll get these put into the freeze dryer. Now it has been running for 35 hours. I add extra dry time so I can get to it when it's convenient for me. Let's give them a check. I'm very confident that they're done. So you're going to cancel it, and then we're going to empty the air out. Make sure it's not in your water bucket because you don't want it sucking back up in there. Alright, so now that they're freeze dried, there are 2 things that you can do at this point. If you plan to use this within the next year and you're not going to use it camping, you're just going to use it at home, I suggest putting it into like a glass jar, something that's your size for your family, and using a vacuum sealer to seal it up. And you can just add water then. If you are like us, we are going to use it for camping, and bringing in a glass jar really isn't going to work for us. So we have these larger Mylar size bags. I'm going to fill them up. I'm going to seal them. Before I seal them, I'll put in an oxygen absorber, and then we'll take it camping with us. You would also want to use this if you're planning on storing it for like long term, 5 years, 20 years, that kind of thing. You would want to use this with the oxygen absorber. All sealed up. I'll get this labeled when I'm done with the other 2. All right, I'm going to do these other 2 trays, guys. Super easy. I don't know if I'm going to get to making the corn tortillas, but a shortcut is to run to the grocery store and grab a bag of chips and just throw them into your soup. I cannot wait to take these on our next camping trip. It's going to be easy to rehydrate. You're just going to put it in a big pot, and you're going to slowly add water and start heating it up and just bring it to the consistency of soup that you like. There's nothing like a warm meal around a campfire or just sitting out looking under the stars and filling those little bellies with a warm, healthy homemade meal right there at the campground. I really hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Please subscribe, leave a comment on what you'd like to know about freeze drying, and don't forget to enter that contest because who doesn't want a massive freeze dryer? It's so awesome. Thank you for being here. As always, I will see you next week. Santa brought these awesome little like mess kits, and it's like a bowl, and it's got like a drinking cup or a soup cup and silverware and all that. So I thought it'd be fun for us to eat it out of this. Other seasonings. Is it seasonings?